Hi, my name is Carrie, and I'm here with Robert, and he's going to be talking about one of his tours of the Chicopee Canal. He does the historical tours of Greater Holyoke, featuring canals, churches, cemeteries, reservoirs, parks, and streets in Holyoke, Chicopee, and South Hadley, Mass. You can see his website at holyokecanaltour.org, or if any questions or anything you'd like to email him directly, you can do so at bobcat4214, capital B, at yahoo.com. Again, that's BOBCAT4214, capital B, at yahoo.com. And so, Robert, this is the Chicopee Canal. When and why were the Chicopee Canals built?
Well, they were built very early on. There's actually two canals in Chicopee. One is now gone, and that is the older of them two. It could be called the Chicopee Falls Canal. And it was around where the Chicopee Falls is, of course. It's now covered over by the levee system or dike system that protects the Chicopee Falls area from floods from the Chicopee River. That one was the first one, but the one that's still around is in Chicopee Center, and that was built in 1832. And they built that one because they wanted to build mills around that area, and it succeeded very much. A lot of the mills are still there, and along the way I'll tell you which ones are the original mills. The way to get to the Chicopee Canal is go to the Chicopee Library, walk along its right edge from the parking lot where there's a fence, still in the Chicopee, on the lawn of the Chicopee Library in the back, and towards the back right corner, there's a way of getting around that fence. So you cross over, and then you meet a large path that goes both left and right, and you also see the Chicopee River in front of you. Of course, you want to follow the one that brings you along the canal. So you're going to turn left. Basically, you're going westward. Now, it's very important that you follow this tour as much as possible along the river. And hopefully you can follow the steps that I have on my webpage. And you'll be able to see where the mills were along the way. And you'll be able to see houses that were made for the mill workers and for the people that dug the canals. Now, you know when they were made, but why? Because Chicopee wanted to become an industrial city, and it succeeded. And it actually was before even Holyoke industrialized. So this first canal, the Chicopee Falls one, was 1823, and the second, 1832. Holyoke didn't have their canal started until 1848. But believe it or not, the second Chicopee Canal, the one in the center, and the Holyoke Canal were constructed by the same person and his sidekick. So John Chase made the plans and had implemented these plans in both Chicopee and in Holyoke. And his sidekick helped him along the way, and they together made beautiful canals. Now the Chicopee one is great to look at still, and some of its mills are there, but it's nothing like the Holyoke one, which is drastic. So John Chase's best work is in Holyoke. Now, John Chase lived in Chicopee, and his home is the first home that you meet as you walk down this path. And so you'll get to see lots of beautiful things along the way.
Now, so what are the mills along the canal?
Okay, the first one you're going to meet is the Ames Mill, and the Ames brothers came from Peabody, and they made a mill that's going to be visible on the way. Its inner core was about 1/4 the size of what's now called Ames Privilege. But they grew bigger and bigger along the way. So the mill that you see there now, which is now apartments, is a lot larger than the original Ames Mill. But they built it up because it became incredibly successful. They made swords and cannons for the soldiers during the American Civil War. After the Civil War, they made swords that were honorary swords that could be handed out to generals and lieutenants. And they also made statues. So they kept going and going, building various things along the way. Now, these Aim brothers stayed in Chicopee, and they're both buried in the Maple Grove Cemetery of Chicopee. So they really loved what they had become. Now, there's two other mills, and those two other mills that you meet quickly along the way were very, very old mills. One was called the Perkins, and one was called the Cabot. Now, those two almost are totally gone. Very little is left of the production mills of those two. The worker houses they have are also gone. So almost all the remnants of those two are gone. There is one piece of the Perkins administration building left, and that's further down along the canal. But once you go by the David Bridge and you keep going along the Chicopee Canal, you're going to meet a mill that is not the original. Okay, that mill is not at all original. People think that it is, but no. That's part of the Dwight mills that came later. Now, Dwight came third. So the Cabot and the Perkins came along in 1834 and 1835, respectively. And the Dwight came along in 1841. And he ended up, by 1856, buying out the Perkins. And he ended up buying out the Cabot. And then he expanded his own mill. And so Dwight ended up owning all the large mills on the very western part of this Chicopee Center Canal. What a system. He had thousands of workers. His worker homes are still there, and we'll be talking about those.
So where did the mill workers live?
The introductory level mill workers lived to the south of the canal, directly facing towards the mills that they work at. So they didn't have far to walk in the morning when they're going off to work. So the Ames workers would work live very close to like 100 yards to the west of where the Chicopee Library is now. The Perkins and the Cabot workers, their homes are gone, but they would live very close to where Chicopee City Hall is now. A lot of those buildings are gone, and there's new retail stores in their place. So it's sad to see so much of that's gone. But best of all is the Dwight mill workers. They worked across from their original mill. And the Dwight mill number 7 is the only one of the very old mills from the 1850s that still exists in Chicopee. So it's the oldest of all those 3 sets. That one is well towards the west, and it doesn't look great, but if you walk all the way down there and then go across the street, and you're on the southern side of the Chicopee Canal, you're going to meet the worker housing, and there are many of them. They form a rectangle around sets of streets over there. They then, the back of those, have homes for managers that was built by Charles McClellan, who was John Chase's sidekick. McClellan not only built the walls for the canals and the mills themselves, he also built the worker homes and the manager homes. They think about 200 to 300 homes in Chicopee were from McClellan's firm. An incredible system. So it's well worth the effort to go into this section of Chicopee. That section of Chicopee is called Cabotville, and the manager homes are around a park that's deep inside this area. It's called Wisnowski Park, and you get to see all different kinds of homes, how people expanded. When they became managers, they had more income and they can move up into the different style of homes. Yeah?
So describe the current canals, mills, and homes.
Okay, so if you go out to the mills and the homes and the canal now, the only function of the canal is it generates energy. And a private firm generates the energy for Chicopee. This allows, well, not all the energy that Chicopee does need, but it allows Chicopee's energy cost to be lower than most cities in New England, which is great. Some of the mills are still active. They were much more active in the past, but they still have low-level businesses in the basement level and the ground floor level of a lot of these mills. All the homes that are left are now active. Probably the biggest change of all is the Ames Mill. Sure, it used to be a cannon mill and a sword mill and made statues, but nowadays it's called Ames Privilege. It's a joining together of all the mills they had and how they expanded, and it also joins their boiler room together with a storage room, and so that's why Ames Privilege looks gigantic, because it joined together many, many different things. There's also along the Chicopee Center Canal now a trail that by design you can walk along it. It's been paved in one section. It's not at all the entire canal. If you start at the library and go to the left like I told you, that's going to be a dirt path. And along the way you're going to be able to see the old dam and one of the public electricity stations next to that dam. And then as you go along, you meet the Ames Privilege. But by that point, you enter onto the tarred pathway, and you can walk along it for about a third of a mile. If you want to go much further, you're going to have to cross where the Devon Bridge inlet and outlet is, and you walk for another 3/4 of a mile, you get to see much more of the canal. And lastly,
So why do you do the tours at Canal?
I think that people loved a canal. Every tour I do that is about a canal, whether it's in Holyoke, South Hadley, or Chicopee, is the most popular tour I do in those communities. People love to hear the explanation of why the canal exists, how it still functions, its geography and its history, and I expand these tours, I make them longer, and I give more details, and I hope to keep expanding. I can possibly find more canals around the Pioneer Valley and do much more. In Chicopee itself, I want to expand, not only give to the public, but do private tours and school tours, and hopefully we catch on as other communities.
Okay, thank you for telling us about the Chicopee Canals. And again, he does the historical tours of Greater Holyoke, featuring canals, churches, cemeteries, reservoirs, parks, and streets in Holyoke, Chicopee, and South Hadley, Mass. You can find his website at holyokecanaltour.org or email him directly at bobcat4214, capital B, at yahoo.com. Again, that's BOBCAT4214, capital B, at yahoo.com. Thank you very much.